Chapter 1. Crush. Can someone please tell me why I left our perfectly comfortable couch to freeze my ass off here? Eden McBride glared at her three friends, waiting patiently in the queue with her. It's been over an hour, but the long line snaking its way around the block had barely moved. Out of all the hangouts in Rock Castle, they had to choose Crush, one of the most challenging clubs to get into, especially on the one weekend when the hottest DJ in town makes an appearance. To help you get over the man whose name we won't mention, Sienna, her best friend since primary school, said in a hushed tone. The clear plastic beads dangling on the ends of her long ombre braids clinked as she turned her head to match her death glare. On her bad days, Sienna was cute, but on a good day like tonight, she was smoking hot. The guys milling about, desperate to get inside like they were, clearly thought so too. They could barely peel their eyes away from her. Yeah, Eden, we've given you enough time to mope. Lydia chimed in as she snapped a quick selfie and posted it on her Instagram. Within seconds, her phone pinged incessantly with notifications from millions of adoring fans. Lydia is a mega successful YouTuber whose makeup videos have catapulted her to a goddess-like status on the internet.
The sooner you get back on the bike, the better,
Cassandra added, flicking her long blonde hair over her shoulder as she pulled up the collar of her signature leather jacket. In the 5 or 6 years Eden's known her, she's never seen her in a dress, not even once. For a self-proclaimed tomboy, Cassandra was effortlessly chic, and with her tall, slim physique and delicate features, she could pull off any look. In their crew, Eden was the plainest, and she was okay with that. Her skin was so pale she could never get a tan no matter how long she stayed in the sun. She tried coloring her long, mousy brown hair a few times, but the constant retouching got old real quick. Her most striking feature was her slanted brown eyes. Pity she had to hide them behind thick-lensed glasses because she was almost as blind as a bat without them.
He's moved on. You should do the same,
Lydia chimed in brutally. Subtlety was not her strong suit. Eden sighed and rolled her eyes. Her friends meant well, but she was okay with spending her days and nights in front of the TV binging on carbs and terrible reality shows. She was cool with not brushing her hair or changing her clothes for days on end. She was happy to cry herself to sleep and wake up with a puffy face and swollen eyes. But she didn't want to be rushed through her grief. How could 6 weeks be enough to get over a lifetime of memories, of 4 years of happy moments and hopeful dreams dashed in an instant? If this stupid line doesn't move in the next 2 minutes, I'm leaving, she said, and pulled her trench tighter. Glad she had the foresight to wear it even when her friends wanted her to ditch it because it was ruining her whole aesthetic. A Lamborghini screeched in front of the entrance, followed by a Ferrari and a Porsche, a group of men as tall as the surrounding office towers and good-looking enough to have walked straight out of a fashion magazine, jumped out of the 3 cars, threw their keys at the valets, and made their way to the door. Perhaps it was the long line that seemed to be going nowhere fast, or the stress of the past few weeks, but when Eden saw the 6 towers trying to bypass the queue, she lost all her patience. Without thinking, she left her place and stormed to the entrance, her friends trailing behind her. She tapped the very tall ginger, trying to smooth-talk his way into the club, on the shoulder. He turned to look at her, his thick eyebrows fussing in a questioning frown. Eden paused, her lungs struggling to keep up with her thoughts and take in simple breaths. With hair so bright like flames, she expected his eyes to be green. Not this denim blue. She could feel herself struggle against their pull.
Eden, don't cause a scene.
Sienna gritted her teeth and tugged at her arm. But Eden saw no reason to be polite. Not when she was almost frozen solid, she could barely feel her ass. She stretched to her full height as she tried to match the man's towering size. But even in her Jimmy Choo stilettos, she still had to look up at him.
Can I help you?
He asked in a voice meant to melt the panties off any woman with a kilometer radius. As if he wasn't already deadly enough, he had a clef, too. The fact that it wasn't so prominent and only seemed to show itself when he spoke or smiled was all he did in the last 50 seconds made it all the more devastating. I don't need your help, Eden said icily, hating him a little. He had no right to be so attractive.
Okay, then.
He shrugged, showing off 2 rows of perfectly straight teeth as he smiled. They were so white, she thought they might be veneers. They had to be. There was no way anyone would have such great teeth unless they had an excellent dentist.
If you're done gawking at me...
Eden held up her hand, irritated with herself for noticing all these things about him and hating him a little more for his presumptuous arrogance. Eden held up her hand, irritated with herself for noticing all these things about him and hating him a little more for his presumptuous arrogance. "Do you see all these people?" She glared at him and pointed at the endless line. "They've been waiting for over an hour. You can't just come here and skip the queue."
You gonna stop me, princess?
His rust-colored eyebrows shot up, his eyes sparkling with amusement, and his Calvin Klein underwear model friends snickered. Eden wanted so much to wipe the smirk off his face with her puny little fists. But she was an educated person. She didn't have to use her hands to prove a point. Words were just as powerful. "If you have any decency, you'll do the right thing and wait in line, like everyone else," she said, blinking furiously behind her black-framed glasses. A hush fell over the small crowd gathered around them. Eden's friends kept tugging and pulling at her, but she was so over everything, including this night, and she refused to be intimidated by Red as he leaned down to stare at her eye level condescendingly.
I guess I'm not a decent person, now am I?
He blew a cold, minty breath on her face and shrugged, returning his attention to the bouncer. He flashed a few notes at the burly man, gathered up his crew, and waved at her group.
They're with us!
Before Eden could even process his announcement, they were already inside the club, wadding through a swarm of sweaty, heaving bodies swaying to the music. It took her a few seconds to adjust to the dim lighting. Up ahead, she saw the man she just tussled with head to a VIP booth. Was she supposed to thank him for getting them in? No way. She shook her head. Now that she was inside, she was glad her toes and ass were not so numb anymore, but she had no issue waiting her turn like everyone else.
"Oh, Saint Eden, we are forever in your debt. Drinks are on us tonight."
Cassandra bowed and brought her hands up in a prayer-like gesture. Lydia giggled and gushed. "Yeah, you took one for the team. I mean, I would never have dared to approach Liam." "That's his name?" Eden asked, barely paying attention to her friend's chatter. Red suited him better in her opinion. She craned her neck, scanning the room for free seats. But other than a few empty stools at the bar, there was no sitting room anywhere, and she desperately wanted to sit down. As cute as her shoes were, especially when paired with her black midi dress, her feet were seriously killing her.
"Liam's like royalty around here. You must have heard about him."
Sienna rattled away.
"He's a motorsport driver, throws the craziest parties, and he has a 3-month rule. He never dates anyone longer than 3 months.
What a charming guy. Eden nodded absently. But she's never heard of him. Not surprising, since she never paid attention to Rock Union's social scene. Her eyes lit up when she saw some empty stools at the bar. It wasn't prime real estate, especially since all the already inebriated idiots seemed to gravitate there, but she had to rest her feet. "Let's go." She grabbed Sienna's hand, and they pushed their way through the crowd, Cassandra and Lydia close behind them. "First round's on me!" Lydia yelled over the music as she tried to catch the bartender's attention. They kicked off their evening with a round of shooters and some gossip, and followed it up with cocktails and more scandalous stories. Lydia was sleeping with one of the lighting guys from her filming crew, and she had no issue describing all his throbbing, turgid parts for anyone who would listen. Halfway through her first cocktail, Eden's mood improved some, and she started to think maybe coming out here wasn't such a bad idea. The DJ switched to a fast-paced tune. Lydia and Cassandra screamed, something about it being their favorite jam. Shrieking their heads off, they ran to the dance floor. Eden watched them jump and bob to the music, a tipsy smile on her face.
"OMG!"
Sienna said, her eyes filled with horror.
"This is not happening!"
Eden's heart shattered all over again when her gaze clashed with Simon's across the room. Olive, their former friend, dressed in a skin-tight metallic dress, hung on his arm like a man-purse.
"I didn't know they'll be here,"
Sienna said. Eden nodded. "I'm okay." But she wasn't. Her heart was still so bloody and raw over her broken engagement. It wasn't so much the breakup she was struggling with, though. It was the cowardly way Simon chose to end their year-long engagement over a text message. He didn't just leave her with a broken heart, but also the admin of canceling the wedding and fighting for refunds. She watched them now make their way through the room, carefree and in love like they never left her broken and bruised. In the first 2 weeks post their breakup, she was in numb disbelief and too busy trying to explain to her parents and everyone around her why her intuition was so off the mark about Simon. The worst, though, was calling all 100 guests to let them know it was okay to use their wedding invitations as toilet paper because there wasn't going to be a wedding. She spent the 4 weeks after floating between disbelief, crushing sadness, and rage. She went through all the stages of grief in those weeks. Now, as she watched the two people she trusted with her life laugh and have fun, Eden realized she was still somewhere between anger and acceptance.
Should we go somewhere else?
Sienna asked. Eden shook her head. She did nothing wrong except trust the two of them with her heart. If anyone should leave, it was Simon and his cheating heart.
Come on, let's show him you don't need him.
Sienna consoled her as they downed the shots lined up on the smooth.
You've moped long enough for him.
She was right. 6 weeks was way too long to sit and cry for a man who had no intention of coming back. Eden thought as she guzzled kamikaze shots one after the other, in quick succession. Her heart, hellishly numb now, was thankful, but her liver screamed at her to stop as the vodka hit her hard. Sienna tried to warn her to pace herself, but Eden was way past the point of being reasonable. She wanted to get shit-faced.
I'm gonna dance!
She hiccuped her way from the bar to the dance floor, determined to pick a random stranger to dance with. She wasn't fussy. Anyone would do.